Uh-oh, no sound, Karen.
Okay, how about now?
Yep.
Okay, happy Friday. So I have set up a little bit different for you all. Let's see, I think I'm recording. Yes, we're recording. So happy Friday. So first and foremost, it's not a cat shirt, but it's a new shirt and it's got dinosaurs eating tacos. Is that cool? So let's see. Hopefully I won't disconnect. Hopefully you can see the back of it. But anyway, this will be great I'm a little early for Cinco de Mayo, but who doesn't love dinosaurs and tacos? So that's the shirt of the day. That's the most important thing that everybody wants to know. And the second most important thing is what's the bear wearing today? So he has a t-shirt that says, "Chicks dig me," and there's a little chick right there. And he's got on his 4th of July hat. He's a little bit off holiday too. And really cool sunglasses. So this is his rock star outfit. He's still wearing the same shoes. I'll have to get him some new shoes one of these days. And he's wearing his scrub pants because he's like a professional during the day and then a rock star at night. So let's see. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Okay. All right. So I guess we'll just jump right into it and feel free to ask questions. Sorry, I keep having to look over there. If I want to look at you, I have to look over there. I wasn't able to set everything up. I was tripping over everything, so I can't move too far. But I do have a second camera that can show you my view a little bit. So we'll kind of be going with the front view and then the side view. And so these are the pearl drums that I won, and they're gorgeous. I need to tune them up a little bit. They're a little boomy in this room. I did a little recording yesterday and realized, I'm going to have to like mic them and do some other fancy tricks. That's the nice thing about the electronic drums is you can easily like make them sound like a whole bunch of different things. Whereas real drums, it depends on the room and there's overtones, and sometimes it sounds one way to you and it sounds different to the camera, and even different cameras. What I found out yesterday is I have a camera and that I recorded, and I was trying to decide, do I record the music through a speaker with me, or do I always play through headphones anyway. Do I record the music first by itself on its own little track and then the drums, and then I can play with the levels? And, there's a whole bunch of you could spend hours editing and trying to get everything just the right way. And then you could just take your iPhone and just plop it on a stand, and it's got great video and great audio, and you don't even need all this fancy stuff. So, I might just start doing that and just putting it into iMovie, and just don't bother with all the mics and all the crazy stuff. But anyway, so I have my drum set set up, and I counted, I've got 5 normal drums, and then the rototoms. I'll give you a little shot. Oh, the rototoms, hang on, I have to make my camera refresh itself. It seems to always need to be refreshed constantly. Hopefully, okay, there we go. So you can see the rototoms really good in this shot. So rototoms were popular in the 80s, and they're still kind of coming back. The nice thing I like about them, it's a cheap way to add to your drum set. So if you have a drum set, you might want to add a cowbell or a tambourine. It's nice to add drums, and drums are usually expensive, but rototoms are not that expensive, and they come on their own stand, and they're not like really a drum in the way that you think of it. It's a head, and then there's no body to the drum. There's no wood. It's very simple construction. And the other cool thing about it, and I won't really do it right now, but these turn. So if I were to grab this and turn it, you can like make the pitch different. So you can even be playing on it with one hand and turning it with the other hand. Sometimes the stand's a little wobbly, so it's not perfect, but you can actually make the sound go boop, 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 kind of a thing. And so I'll just I'm not sure how well the sound will be here, but so they're pitched, and it's just a nice way to add additional drums. They're a little hard to get to because they're over the hi-hat. I had to buy a new hi-hat rod because my rod came up to here and it's kind of in the way when you're trying to play. So there's only one company who makes a shorter rod. So I bought a shorter rod, this part right here. So it pretty much gives me a little bit more room up here. So they're a little tricky to get to. They're kind of special effects, but they look cool and they're not that expensive. And it's in a way to add additional drums. You could put them on the other side, but I kind of like them here because it goes from high and then you can continue down the pitch all the way down. The other thing is these little O-rings. I think you can kind of see this little plastic thing is like total magic. You know, they didn't have these when I was a kid. I used to have to cut up pieces of sheet, you know, or pillowcase and take the head off and put it through there and put the head back on and, you know, tape wads of paper on your head. And the idea is, and I hope you'll be able to hear the difference, but like if you don't have this, either E-ring or O-ring, depends on the company, what they're called. But basically, they're these little plastic pieces of film. They don't cost that much, but they make your drums sound so much better because they get rid of that overtone, that ringiness, and they don't change the feel of the drum. So when you put stuff in the head, you know, it feels like playing on a pillowcase. You don't get the same. You can't go as fast. So here's just an example. Boing, 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 you know, awful sounding. You put this on, you just lay it there. You don't glue it or anything. And it's magic. And so, you know, I had to buy special ones because these are not standard sizes. But anyway, so rototoms. So that's one of the first things we'll kind of talk about. So I have my normal 5 drums. So the snare, the 2 riding tom-toms, the floor tom, and then the bass drum, and then the 3 rotos. So that's 8 drums. And then when I started counting my cymbals, I have 13. And I just thought we'd go through some of them. I thought it'd be fun to kind of look at them and maybe hear the sound. I'm not sure how well they'll project, hopefully pretty good. I guess we'll start with the most obvious normal cymbals that every drum set has or typically should have, and that's the hi-hat. So the hi-hat's controlled with my left foot, so I can have the closed sound, half open sound where I just release with my foot a little bit, and then a completely open sound. Hopefully I'm not blowing your ears out. It's going through this mic right here, which is really sensitive. So most of the time we play with the closed sound. We're playing like the rock beat. Or we can open it up like a disco beat. And so, you know, you can have different effects. You know, you can do 2 hands on the hi-hat. That kind of thing. So the hi-hat, super important. This one happens to be 14-inch. And these are real popular. They're the Zildjians, and they're called quick beats. And the cool thing about it is it's 2 cymbals, but they're different. There's one that's meant to be on the top and one that's meant to be on the bottom. The one on the bottom doesn't have a bell. So the bell is this little rounded part at the top here. You can see there's like a little bell. The bottom one doesn't have that. Now, some hi-hats do have that. You have the bell on the bottom. Usually one of them's thicker than the other. So you can't just intermingle and switch them around. Usually it'll even tell you this is the top. It says top, and the other one says bottom. So you know which one goes where. But everybody usually has a set of 14. Sometimes you can get them a little smaller, a little bigger. And they're kind of medium thickness, so that you don't want really, really heavy hi-hats unless you're playing heavy rock. You kind of want them in the middle, especially if you're versatile. You want to play jazz, you need them a little bit lighter and a little bit crispier because you're doing a lot of kind of thing, and you don't want a real big heavy sound. So depending on the type of music you play, you would choose thicker or larger versus thinner and smaller, or in the middle. So you could go both ways. So hi-hat, super important. Hopefully y'all are still there. I have to look over here to make sure. Okay, I see people. Yay. Okay, so the next one that's really important is your ride cymbal. This one happens to be one I got a long time ago, like in the 70s, 1978. I got this one, and I got, oh, you can't see it. There's one way up here. You can see it just a little bit. And so ride cymbals, again, are what you're, the two things that you do a lot in drumming is you play on the hi-hat, you do a fill, hit a crash, go to the ride cymbal, do a fill, crash, go back to the hi-hat. That's kind of the formula for a lot of songs. So you go to the ride during the guitar solo, the sax solo, the big part of the vocals, and it's a little ringier. You want your ride cymbal to be pretty big and pretty, not too heavy. Again, you would choose a heavier thickness for, rock or something like that, or metal. You want it kind of crispy, again, for jazz. So it just depends on what you're playing. These are, one of them's 19 and one of them's 20. They're pretty large. They just don't make cymbals like this anymore. These are just awesome, and I would never get rid of them. And so they are, the newer cymbals are shinier and prettier, and they're thinner, and they just sound tinny to me. These are the ones that you go to the music store and you pull them out and listen, and you pick the one, because you can't just take 2 or 15 of the same and expect them to sound the same from the old days. They were all unique and individual. And that's why there was so much personal preference on what you chose. Now you can order on Amazon, and a 20 is going to sound like a 20 to everybody. I mean, there might be distinct little nuances, but basically they're manufactured in a way that's pretty much, what you get is what you get. And back in the old days, they were all unique. Even the ones that were in the same class and category, they sounded different, and you would pick the one you liked. And so, they used to have, they still kind of do in music stores. You can go into the room, the cymbal room, and they have some examples, and you could pick the exact one, but more than likely you're just going to order something online. You can go in and bash on a bunch of them, find the one you like, and then just order it, and it shows up and it sounds exactly the same. So I don't know. I kind of like the uniqueness of cymbals. So these two are really awesome. I have one on the right, so I can do right hand ride, and I can do left hand ride. And a lot of times I do this thing where I go back and forth between the two. So they have a nice bell on them, so the little mound. A lot of times I play on the bell of the cymbal to get kind of like a, again, like a disco-y sound. Or another thing that I do a lot of is I go back and forth between the sort of edge of the cymbal and the bell of the cymbal to get that distinct, almost like a cowbelly sound. So ride cymbals, you need one. So everybody needs a hi-hat, everybody needs a ride cymbal. One crash cymbal is like the basic drum set, and it's usually over here. So like you do your fill, you hit your crash, and you either go back to the hi-hat or to the ride. And so that's where the fun comes in. You can have different crashes that have different purposes, and that's how you can start to kind of add. Sometimes they'll even make a crash ride. So like for beginners, it's expensive to buy lots of cymbals, and they actually have them in packages. You just get them in a box now. You get a set of hi-hats, a ride, and maybe a crash. And if you're lucky, one additional one, a splash or a china. And so they make crash rides. So like if you only could buy one cymbal, you could ride it and you could crash it, and it would sound good. Now, if I tried to crash on my rides, they sound horrible. They're not meant to be crashed, they're meant to be ridden. So just kind of like, keeping the time, and vice versa. My crash cymbals are very specific crash sounds, and if I was riding on them, they sound awful, crash, 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 crash. I mean, sometimes you might want to do that, but not very often in a normal song. So they're very specific. They have different purposes. So just to go through a couple of them, let's see the ones you can see. Let's start with this one. So this is really fun. So what this thing is called a spiral stacker. And what it's meant to do, I'll take it apart here just so you can really see it. This is definitely special effects. Now I could just have this cymbal on a stand. So it's a cymbal that's been kind of cut out so that you could hang it on a stand. It would look cool, and you could kind of crash on it a little bit, you know, kind of a special effect, you know, more cool looking than sounding actually. But what it's meant to do is I have this other cymbal, which is a thin crash. It's a Sabian, by the way, one of the few that I have, because I'm not a fan of Sabian, actually, sorry to say. They're shiny. That's about all I'm going to say. They're great for beginners. You know, they're up there. My preference is Zildjian. But so here is a Zildjian spiral stacker. It's meant to go on another cymbal. And you get this really unique sound here. And again, it's a special effect. If I really want a big crash, this is where I'm going. You know, like if I'm playing jazz, I'm not going to be doing this. But this is like the end of the song, the big rock song. Hopefully I didn't blow your ears out. But you hear that crash and then... So it lasts a little while. I'm not going to want to choose this versus a splash, which is tiny. It goes crash and it's gone. So you got your emphasis, but then it doesn't linger. This one lingers for quite a few seconds later. So this is one you want to choose carefully. You know, you don't just want to be splashing at the end of the song because it's going to sound sort of like a letdown, you know, the big part of the song, and you go at the end, unless that's what you want. So like if you want a big finish, the spiral stacker is really cool. And I usually have it over on my right-hand side. I just put it here because my computer's over here taking up space. So the spiral stacker is two cymbals, one stacked on the other, which is kind of cool. The other one you can kind of see here, and maybe you can see better. Yeah, you can see better. This one right here. So this was the spiral stacker we just talked about. Here's the hi-hat. So right here next to the hi-hat, I have this other thing that's relatively new called a stack. And what it is, it's a great concept. They've not had these all that long. In fact, I won this. And I won't take it apart, but it's two heavier baby cymbals. And the bottom one does have a bell to it. And they're really tight together. So it's like a baby hi-hat that you can't control to open and close. And you actually can make it tighter or looser, so you can make it be more like a crisp hi-hatty sound or a open sound by controlling this little knob here. So it sounds like this. It's got a great little sound. So sometimes you can be playing on your hi-hat. You know, it adds a little coolness. Or you could just play, you know, with your left hand. So it's just tight. It's like a baby hi-hat. That's the way I think of it. And I have something over on my right, which I might have to hold up for you. Maybe I can take this one off. It comes off pretty easy. It's nice to have one on the right and one on the left. So this is the same idea as the spiral stacker. This one's called the chopper. It's really heavy. And if you look carefully, again, it's that same concept. It's like a cymbal on top and a cymbal underneath. And it looks like I don't know, it's got this characteristic, really cool looking design. And when you hit this one, again, you can't control this one as much as I can control this one to be looser or tighter. This one's called the chopper. And when you hit on it, it has that sound. So sometimes you can do things between the two. And it's just got a nice, it really cuts through. So sometimes in the song, you really want to have something distinct and not so ringy. You would choose to play maybe on your chopper. So I've got one on the right, kind of one on the left, so I can do this back and forth kind of thing, which is nice. It's important to make that left hand do something, instead of 2 and 4 all the time. It actually needs to sometimes sustain the ride. And that's important to kind of, you can tell people who have ride cymbals on your left, that their left hand's pretty much more developed. If their rides are all on the right and their crashes are all on their left, they're pretty much playing always everything right-handed and crashing over here or crashing with the left hand. It's nice to have some crashes on the right, some crashes on the left. some rides on the right, some rides on the left, just to be able to have some choices. Another one right here in front of me. Oh, I love this thing. This is my Splash. It's a 10-inch Zildjian, and it's the K series. So K series is kind of their best one. And the thing I like about Splash is they come in an 8-inch and 10-inch. The 8-inch to me sounds like a toy. It'd be good for special effects, I guess. It's just like kind of cheesy. At least the 10 is not. It sounds like an instrument, it doesn't sound like a pretend thing. So I love this, and I have it right here on the right. So when I do fills, a lot of times that is my go-to. I love the sound of my Splash because it crashes and gets out of the way. I mean, it's ringing some, but in the scheme of things, that ring, you just hear the splash. That's a great name for it. It's a splash, and then there's some ripples and stuff, but it gets out of the way. It doesn't linger like this thing is going to go on for far too long sometimes. It's like, I don't want to hear that anymore. Now we're on to the next part of the song. So I've got my Splash right here. The other one I have right here, this is a Wuhan. It's actually a super cheap cymbal, like cheap meaning less than $100. Most cymbals are way up there. And so it is, I put it upside down. It's got this characteristic, distinct looking look to it. It's kind of like a baby china. I think of it like a baby china cymbal. And I hit it on the part, there's like this little rim here. And I hit it usually with the shoulder of the stick. And this one, I could hit it with my right hand or my left hand. I kind of like that versatility. Sounds like a gong, right? It's pretty gonna make a statement. So like, I probably wouldn't play that in jazz, ding, 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 to bow, you don't want a gong right there. So, for the right moment, like when you really want a big crash, but not this big, and you want it to kind of get out of the way, it's a good choice. It's like the step up from the Splash. Splash is my normal. This is like, I want it a little bit more. And then if I really want it, I'm going to go over here. That's kind of how you would imagine things. Other things. So you can kind of see this one. It's actually green. And I've had this one since the 70s also. I can remember the exact day I saved up for this forever to buy it. They were really popular. They had red, blue, green. It's almost super rare. I think they're starting to come back with the green again now. But this is a Paiste cymbal. And it was a color, they called it color sound. And it's upside down. And it's also a china. I don't know how well you can see it. It's pretty. And when you hit it, a gong. Again, you got that gong sound. So if I wanted a bigger, like less than this, but more than this, I might go for that. And sometimes, again, it's more of a special effect. So I try not to use it in every song. Most of the time, some of these are just extra. You don't want to try to put stuff in if it doesn't belong. It's kind of like you're playing along. Oh, I haven't played that for a while. Don't fall into that trap of like, I should probably play that because I haven't, because that's not what you want to do. Like, it's there if you need it. But you're not going to put that in every song. That's why it's special. Like, you might play 4 hours and the audience hears it 3 times, but the 3 times they heard it, it was like, whoa, something's new, something's different. Instead of like every song gets one of everything, like, oh, boring, how predictable, which one's going to be next, So, that's the it's nice to have a big drum set, but like, you don't need all this fancy stuff. I just decided, hey, I've got all this stuff from this one goes with that drum set. This one goes with this drum set. Let me just create this monster drum set with a lot of stuff and see, just what comes out. It's like painting, and however you set it up, kind of dictates how you're gonna play. You might play a little bit differently. So let's see, we've covered all of those. Okay, so I've got a regular, let's see if you can see this. Make sure you all are still there. Yay, you're all still there. Woo-hoo. So this one, well, you can't see it all that well. I can pull it in. It doesn't look anything special. It's just a normal crash cymbal. It is also one that I got in 1975. The Easter Bunny brought this one. That was a pretty awesome, usually you get some jelly beans and a kite or something. And oh man, I got a cymbal. I can believe it. That was an awesome year. I was like, I love that Easter Bunny. I'm telling you. Yeah. And this is an awesome cymbal. And again, I think I got it like it was in the 70s. It was the first, I think this was the first cymbal I ever got. It's a crash. And so I'll just give you a little example. It's bigger than a splash. It was my crash for a long time. My one crash. I had my two rides. Well, first I don't remember. I think I got these at the same time. My two rides and my crash I had for 10 years before I started adding things. So, I mean, this is a lifetime of stuff here. I didn't just go out one day. I mean, I can tell you every place I bought everything along the way. This one was in 1990 and this one was in 95. And, and I don't get rid of any of them because they're my babies. A few of them I've gotten rid of, and I only try to get rid of them to students that I've had for a long time, because I feel like, it's sort of a piece of me. If I'm going to give that away, I'm going to give it to somebody who, my students are kind of a piece of me too. So like it belongs there. I'm not just going to put it on Craigslist and send it off to some random person who's going to bash it to death, So, so yeah, this was my crash for a long, long time. And I still use this crash an awful lot. So here's one that's cool and unique. This is another one that I won. Thank God for contests. I've gotten some good gear and, recent contests, because years ago, there was no prizes. It was just like, oh, good, I won. That's awesome. But now you get stuff, So this one is a Zildjian. It looks like Swiss cheese, and it is called a trash crash. Okay, so like a trash can. And it's not only a trash crash, it's a K, which is the highest one. And it's a special dry. So we have these terms for cymbals, dry, wet, sizzle. Dry is a great name. I was playing with this cymbal a lot the other day. And this is a type of a crash that I'm going to use. It's like a quiet crash because it's missing holes. It doesn't resonate. It doesn't ring. It's like a big splash. It's even less than a splash. It's my quietest cymbal. And that's perfect for dry, because dry is just like dry, like something that's wet is like wet and it stays wet for a while. Dry is like, it's just like the desert, there's nothing there really. So when you hit this, wow, it's got this trash can sound. It doesn't sound like a china, like a gong, but it's kind of quiet and it's kind of really delicate. When among the scheme of things, when you're actually playing along with music, there were a few times where I was like, oh man, this is a great place for a big old crash. Let me try this one. And it was just kind of like the bottom fell out. It's like this big moment and nothing happened. So I've decided I reserve this for times where I might not even put a crash at all. But I want something. So it works there. And if it's my big moment, definitely don't go here, because it feels like the big part of the song just, the bottom fell out, like it was really, it's not meant for that, and I kind of thought, when you look at it, it's like, oh, that trash crash. Yeah. I'm going to play that in the big part of the song, crash. Nope. So I like it a lot, and I probably would have never bought it. And I'm not somebody for gimmicky things, just gimmick for gimmick's sake. Has to have a purpose. But I do like cool, different things. These things do sound different and they have different purposes. So, okay, that's all the cymbals. Couple other things. I think you can just barely see my wind chimes. They also call this a mark tree. And oh, I just love that sound. I use a lot of little delicate cymbal work in the quiet parts of the song where there's no drums. I do a lot of scrapes on a cymbal, a lot of little nebulous sounds. and I love my wind chimes. So at the end of a song, drums don't always have to be crash bang. They can be just really add a little bit of color. You could have a whole song where you don't play the drums. You just play cymbals and brushes and scrapes and rolls. Nothing like, this cymbal over here, my favorite one from a long time ago with yarn mallets, is like a symphonic sounds like an ocean, and it's got a really nice swell to it. Not all cymbals have a good swell. If I tried to roll with yarn cymbals on my ride cymbal, it would sound like a disaster. So certain cymbals, this is the only one I would roll with my red yarn mallets. So I would get them out. I have them because I used them last night in concert band, but you roll and it has this beautiful swell, and you can just really, and then you could do some scrapes and different things. And it looks cool. You're doing something. It's interesting to watch. So I have another set of, I don't know how well you can see these. I think you can see it a little bit. These are my wooden, sometimes what you'd put on your porch. They're bamboo. Nice little thing to just add a little something, something. So it's nice to have some special effects around. I don't have any cowbells on here. I don't know where I would even put them right now, because I'd probably put them on my floor tom right underneath my cymbal here. It needs to be accessible, and something called a jam block, which is like a wood block. It's nice to have that. I also have a tambourine that I can hook on here that I can actually hit. Might have a little spot right here for that. And then sometimes you can even have a little table with a towel and some, little toys on it. So the kabasa, your guiro, and all kinds of stuff. So that is kind of my current setup. What questions do you all have? I'm going to turn my view. There we go.
You've explained every one of them. Can you go through and start like with the softest cymbal, just go boom, 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 just right in a row so we can hear the difference compared to each other at the moment?
Yeah. Yep. And what I was going to do later is, send you a recording. Right now, I think it would sound really awful because I think a lot of the sound is getting picked up through this vocal mic, and I want it to sound a whole lot better. But I could definitely give you an idea of like going down the line, and hopefully it's not too boomy or too terrible, but like. Then the snare.
Missed all the sound. Did anyone else miss it?
I'm sorry?
I only heard the last one. Did anybody
You only heard the last one?
with the sound?
Oh, hang on. I know why. Okay, let's try it again. There's a special setting on Zoom, so hopefully let's do it again. And here's a perfect example of an O-ring on a snare drum. I'm going to take this off. Oh, that's awful. Nobody wants to hear that. You put this on, and it's absolute magic. The other thing I can do is turn my snares off. There's a little lever that takes the wires on the bottom away. Well, I got to actually do a little adjusting. A little more adjusting. I know what's happening. It's actually, hang on one second. I can turn this into a tom-tom. It just depends how my snare is sitting. I actually probably can't do it right this second because I have to take it all the way off. Oh, there we go. Now if I take my O-ring off, put my O-ring on, and then I'll put my snares back on. Probably a little too tight now. So there's a little lever that not only puts the snares in contact with the head, but you can tighten it and loosen it That's a little bit, I'm going to have to adjust it a little bit now, but you get the idea. The O-rings really help, especially on these tom-toms. These tom-toms are very resonant. And you don't want to tune them up and make them so tight that it strangles the drum. You want it to resonate some. You can hear it resonate, but not overly resonate. Gets rid of the overtones. And the idea is to have it tuned. I noticed this one didn't sound all that great, so when I went from here, I would probably spend some time getting those tuned a little bit better so that it kind of goes down the line. And then as far as the cymbals, you know, I'll just kind of play each one. So I'll do the crashes. Here's the spiral stacker, the stack, the hi-hat, ride cymbal, China, Wuhan, splash, special, dry, crash, trash, trash crash. Got 4 names. Special dry, trash crash. Another ride. My favorite original crash cymbal. And my chopper. And I do have some others that I can pull out next week maybe and demonstrate. Let's see. Other questions?
So when would you play your drums without the O-rings? Because it seems to me it would be easier if they just made a drum head that built them in.
They do actually have some that are like that. But what I found, you know, they have those, I guess I can look over here now. They have those hydraulic heads. So they have, it's a 2-ply, so it's like material and another material and sometimes oil even in between or oil around the edge. But to me, it's they have no rebound at all. It's like playing on a on your leg. And if you're doing a lot of little stuff, they don't project that. So if you're playing in an arena, a rock arena with, 50,000 plus, you would want those kind of heads. They're durable. You're doing big motions. But you're not doing anything intricate and small. And so those would be a good choice. I like, I'm a drum corps person, so we technique, little stuff, lots of time spent doing flams and drags and rolls, and you want people to hear that, So you play lower, you play faster. So you want a head that's responsive. So a 2-ply head feels like your arms feel like a wet noodle, like playing on a pillow. You try to hit a pillow, there's no bouncy back. You don't get any, it's all just like whack, whack. And you can't get all that little stuff. So they actually make heads like that, but they're not really meant for, they're more for hard hitters, simpler, more dramatic. So there's a place for them. But, like they would not be used in a jazz club, for sure. Jazz people would hate it because they're playing all these little rolls and things like that. So they do make them. And they make all kinds of heads for different reasons. Yeah.
Well, is there a difference between the clear and a coated head? And are roto drums always made with clear heads?
Yeah, rotos are always made with clear heads. You could certainly change them out. So these are clear heads, plastic. Now this, let's see, yeah, I think you can see this. This is actually this is like a lightly coated head. I don't know that I would call this a really coated head. Coated heads are great for brushes, so they're rough. I don't know, it's like right now, when I feel on this, it's smooth plastic. When I feel on this, it feels like fine sandpaper. And the brush, I don't have my brushes nearby here, but would have a nice sound on a coated head. A lot of times people want, especially jazz players, are going to want a coated head for their snare because they're doing all this intricate brush work. And this one's coated, but it's not like excessively coated. So there's like a heavy coat, and then there's more of a lighter coat. This one came I didn't order this. It came this way. And it's very versatile because it's not completely smooth and it's not completely heavy coated. which was nice. They sent this would be a versatile drum set that could go a lot of different directions. And snare heads are really important, and they have sometimes people, on concerts, you'll see them change their snare out. It's like a guitar player, they'll change out their guitar for different songs. And snares are like that, especially when you show up to a recording studio. They want you to bring minimum 3 snares, different kinds, a piccolo snare, maybe a deeper snare, or now everything is fancy. They can push buttons in the control room and make whatever you have sound like whatever they want. So that's kind of cool too, to be able to make the sound whatever you want. You used to spend hours in the studio just getting like things to sound the way they want. Now they don't waste time with that. It's like get to the thing, and we'll manipulate later down the road, or edit like crazy. So let's see. Let me put my back onto this. Okay. Yeah. Other questions?
Yes, I I am in love with that green symbol, and I was just wondering, if you played in public anywhere, concert or anything, and had that, did anyone feel the way I do? It's just gorgeous.
Isn't it? Yeah, and I think that they're coming back with the colored symbols. Well, and actually my green Ludwig Vistalite that I've talked to you about, green is becoming popular, but it was very, very rare, and I just liked it. I thought it was gorgeous. I like green. I mean, blue's my favorite color. Actually, my favorite color is this dinosaur blue here, but I liked the blue Vistalite that they had was a light blue. It was a sky blue. It wasn't this electric blue, and so I was like, well, the green is just way more cool. In fact, you can see it. Let's see, I think up above next to the bird, if you look above my head there's a green drum hiding up there.
It's just outstanding.
Yeah,
really
I love it. I love it too. Let's see, let me we'll make sure what view I have here. Okay, there we go. Whoops. Back to this, getting confused. And then, of course, all the cool stuff on the wall. You can't help but not like the background. And, I was going to put a symbol here, but I have, you don't want your face to be totally covered up by the symbol. So I just have this little margin of, like, where I can be so you can see me. I was doing a little recording yesterday I usually record on my electronic drums, but I was recording on my acoustic drums just to see what it sounded like, and what I realized is sound is pretty horrible. So I need to alter it but you don't want to like dampen your drums down so much that they don't resonate and sound like you're playing on a pillow. There's a sweet spot, and the interesting thing is the camera that's recording you right now, I have to record on a little disc and then take the disc into my computer. By the time I do all that and I listen to it, I didn't like the sound at all. Take my iPhone, plop it on a stand, it cuts out a lot of ring. I mean, those cameras are great, and the audio is very, very good. So, like, it's getting to the point where, I mean, this is an older camera, and I think it hears what's in the room. It hears the real thing. The iPhone already has a built-in thing that kind of cuts out a lot of extraneousness so that I don't have to do it on my computer. It's doing it automatically because it's so good. The cameras now are so clear, and the audio just on a phone is better than just a generation of video cameras ago. I mean, that's why they don't make video cameras really anymore, because nobody wants them. You can do it on your iPhone better and faster and easier, and anybody has it. Anybody can do it. So it's kind of cool. But the problem for me is I have to think about my phone also has my music. So I have my music going into my headphones, and now I don't want two phones for sure. So if my phone is going to be my video, then I got to go off my watch. And the problem with Apple Watch, used to be the old Apple Watch, you could plug into it your headphones. Now everything's wireless. I hate wireless. I would much rather have wires, because if there's a problem, I'm tripping over them. You should see this rat's nest right here. But I know what's going to what, and I'm in control. When it's wireless and there's a problem, it's like, who's the problem? Is the computer the problem? Are you the problem? Is that little thing the problem? It's just drive yourself crazy. I want to know, oh, the problem is I didn't plug that into that. Oh, I do that, it's fixed. I know what's going on. I don't have to maybe it's just the Wi-Fi's not good right now, and I've spent 2 hours trying to fix it, and then it goes away on its own anyway. So, there's something to be said for, all my mics that I have. I don't have any mics out right now. They're wired, which means I got to wire 9 mics, and they're all wired somewhere, and you have to keep track of all that. Wireless is convenient and nice. You just clip the mic on and it communicates, theoretically, perfectly to where it's supposed to go. But, what if it doesn't? Then, is it the mic? Is it the box? Is it the interface? Is it the computer? It drive yourself nuts. So I'm old school. I want to know what's connected to what, and I have fun figuring it out. So it's fun for me to figure out how, maybe I can do, I didn't think about using that. Like the other day, I pulled out an old CD player, because I still have CDs. And I'm like, how can I play a CD in my headphones and record the CD to my computer on its own track, and then record just the drums and then sync them up? Or is it better to just play my CD to my speaker, have the music live, record once with the music and the drums together, but then you're risking, what if the drums are too loud for the song? So you really have to pay attention to some of this stuff, and it can get, that's what I love, just having all day to putter around and discover this stuff. What I discovered was my iPhone's pretty good hearing the speaker, and speakers are big and boomy, but it's so good it cuts all that out, and it's a better mix of me. Sounds like I'm with the band rather than I'm playing to a recording of the band. So anyway, there's a whole nother talk on recording and editing, and I'm always learning and connecting old pieces of equipment that I have, and I'm like, how can I use that I haven't used in 15 years to do something without buying anything new? No buying anything new. I have everything. But how can I get my stuff to work with itself? Or, and the problem is, they do this stuff on purpose. Like the Apple Watch used to have a port that you could connect into for your headphones. Well, the new one is wireless. There's no port. So it's so I pull out my old Apple Watch from 100 years ago, but now I can't get the new music to sync up with it. It only wants the old music. And it's they just keep us buying stuff, and the stuff that are buying, like the new Macs, I have to have 100 attachments because there's no ports. Like the old one had a CD player in it. Like you could play the CD in the computer, and then there's your music through your headphones. Boom, done. No, now you got to buy the CD player, hook it through, but there's only 2 ports, so you got to get a port extender. It's just oh my gosh, crazy. And I don't even like the new stuff.
I have a question off subject. Do you understand TVs as well as you do the sound? Can you take a Roku TV and hook it up to cable and have both Roku and cable through a Roku TV? Is that possible?
Yeah, it is possible. And, I can't tell you exactly right now. I like to play. I try stuff, and I'm not afraid to try stuff. Right now, the TV, I have 2 TVs in here that I don't have a place in the house for. One's a huge screen that I usually am looking at you guys on it. And then I have a smaller one that I hook my computer to that TV. So my computer screen that's this big, I see you all on a bigger TV. And I can see myself through the video camera on my really large TV. So I have, right now, I'm looking at the camera. Well, if I look at the camera, I'm looking up. But I've got my monitor, which is TV, right in front of the camera. So, because I like to see myself to see what's the shot. Does the shot look good? You know, am I in the shot or am I like talking to people like this? You know, so I like to look at what my audience is seeing. For the most part, like right now I have something over here, so it's distracting me. I wasn't able to get my second TV over here. But by next week, I'm going to try to get my GoPro up above here rather than over there. Oh, it just heard me. I think it just went on. It's really creepy. I say the word GoPro and it beeps. It's probably recording this and sending it off to who knows where. But so I've got a camera here. I've got my monitor here. And I use my TVs like a computer screen. And so I basically connect various things, my computer to one, and my little, what's called a switcher, the thing that I'm switching the cameras on, to the other one. And it's a way for me to use these TVs that like are not TVs right now. But yeah, there's always a way. And sometimes it just means buying a certain cable. These headphones are I keep scratching my head. Sorry about that. But these headphones are, I think my hair is caught in there and it's like pulling on it. I'm like, oh, quit pulling my hair. But yeah, cables are a whole nother talk. I've gotten really good. If you looked at my Amazon list, you would just wonder what I am doing because I order the most weird things. And one of them is just, I have every cable. I get these little hooks that you can put on the wall. You know, they're the ones that supposedly like come off really easily, you know. I never find that that's true. It always rips the paint off. But I have a whole wall of these little hooks, and I just have cable after cable after cable. And I love those twist ties, you know. I have boxes of cables, and I twist them all up. And half the time I'm like, where's that one cable that goes between this and that, you know? Or how can I get that to communicate with that using the cables I have? And it might mean two cables are going together, you know, like, so I love strip extender, you know, even though I have electricity everywhere in this room, I love my strip electrical outlets, so I don't have 100 long individual extension cords. So I got a bunch of those of all different lengths. That's the other thing. Get your cables long. So when they're short, that's nice. They're not tangly and everything. But I always want a longer one. Whenever I order a shorter one thinking, oh, I'm only going from here to there, I don't want all that extra, I always find that I have to order a longer cable because invariably I come up with a solution that's like, oh, I can only, now this has to sit next to that, and now I'm tripping again, you know. So I always get them longer, and yes, longer means the sound is going to deteriorate. The longer your cable, but you know, these cables are so good. I found if you have one that's 10 or 15, I can't hear the difference. Maybe somebody else could, but I definitely don't want 1 foot cables. I mean, I want at least 6, 8, 10 feet so that I can jimmy rig where I'm going and not have to be tripping again over it, even though I'm always tripping. I'm going to break my neck.
Do you unplug everything if you're having a bad electrical storm?
I unplugged the main thing, the strip. And, you know, we don't have them here like I did in Georgia. When I was in Georgia, I used to unplug everything all the time. Here, we just don't have that. It's just not, I don't find that that's an issue. I do turn everything off. And I always have my fan going. So it's kind of like, that is always, I forgot to mention my fan. My fan is a part of the drum set. And sometimes I have two. Because, you know, it's a physical activity. And like, you get hot. So I always have my seltzer water, you know, nearby. It's just like, oh, I'm so thirsty. Why am I so thirsty? Oh, well, I guess I've been playing for 2 hours. I guess that makes sense, you know. Anyway. Okay, I think we better end. So send me emails about what you want to talk about next. Hopefully you liked the tour of the drum set. And I will see you all next time.
I have another question.
Okay.
I went to a performance last night. Have you ever heard of the Young Americans? They're teenagers and whatever. And the drummer was behind a plexiglass shield. I don't know if it was all the way around or what. Is that normal or did he have COVID or what?
No, that's normal. That's you'll see those in churches or where there's a lot of vocals. So that makes sense because you're trying to make the drummer be quiet, and that dampens the sound.
I
So
saw
you
their
see it.
performance 6 months ago, and I told them the drummer is overpowering everybody.
That's why.
So
Yeah.
that's what they did. They said, "Well, we can't tell them to be." I said, "Well, just unplug your speakers. I'm sure we'll still hear them."
Well, the other thing that you can do is you get electronic drums, and then the sound person can just manipulate, and that's why a lot of churches have electronic drums now because church music is quiet. It's guitar, people singing, and drums are loud. Even if you're trying your best to be quiet, it's a loud instrument, and it's hard to play quiet. You have to. It's like driving with your brakes on. You just don't feel like you can't, you're just so constrained. So electronic drums, a drummer can play like they want to, just turn them down. And so that's the answer. Electronic drums cost more, but plexiglass is a solution. It's hard to haul around, but it does work.
Yeah, he was a lot quieter, I noticed.
Good. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Valerie. I see some new
you.
people here. Hopefully they'll come back. We'll see ya. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.